What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be building a board for a friend. Well, technically I'm going to be tearing down his existing board and putting his pedals on my old pedal board, kind of rearranging things. So I've got to take off all the pedals off of his board, I've got to do a few things, got to take off all the dual lock off of my pedal board, and then I got to start reattaching everything and like getting the layout down. So you can see his pedal board layout right here. This is kind of everything that's going on. We're gonna add a couple pedals, take off a couple pedals, and rearrange everything to make it a little bit cleaner. Since we're gonna be using my old flat board and he's not actually gonna install any riser onto the board like I used to have, we're gonna be installing some custom risers from my friend Jonathan Nichols for some of the pedals that need to be easier to reach. We're gonna raise up maybe the big kind of timeline like in one of my other videos where we did a flat board and we didn't do a riser, we did some of these things. So we're probably gonna do that. We're gonna try and keep the space as tight as we can. You can see with Pedal Playground, it's kind of close, it's very narrow, but I think we're gonna be able to make it all fit. Obviously some of the pedals he doesn't need to reach, as far as like the tone press or the RC booster. He doesn't want to really turn those off or on at any point, so they're not really necessities for areas that he needs to grab. So we're gonna try and get this all to fit onto one 24 by 12 flat board with some custom risers from my friend. And if you want any of the risers for yourself, you can go on his website. I will link it down below and you can order yourself some of these for your board too. So with that, let's start tearing down some of this board and then start trying to relocate some of these things to the new board. This is the not so fun part. I gotta take all the dual lock off of this from my old board. I probably should have did that earlier, but oh well. Now I know what you're probably thinking. I've been posting a lot more videos recently and you're probably wondering, where did I get all this extra free time? Well, to be honest with you, there's a hurricane out there right now, so everything's shut down and I've got nothing to do at home. So I decided I will do a couple videos until I don't have power, because I'm here in Tampa, Florida. By the time you see this video, Hurricane Milton will be gone by then and everything should still be good, at least in my area, but definitely going to, you know, have my thoughts and prayers for those who are affected by this in a negative way, because inevitably every year when we have hurricanes come through, we pray that it doesn't hit us, but it does hit someone and it does affect people. Want to acknowledge that and pray for those that are affected by this hurricane and the hurricane that just came through, Hurricane Helen, a couple weeks ago. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. Okay, so I've got the other pedal board all taken apart. I've got the new pedal board all cleaned up, got all the gooey stuff off of it. And I started to lay out everything on the new board and I completely forgot that I still had the original riser that came with this board. So Blackbird had a riser when you bought their board, their flat boards, and mine's just been in storage for a long time because I, you know, installed a Goodwood one instead. So, and I forgot I still had this one, so I pulled it out and I think it's gonna work out. So let's look at this layout. So here is the possible layout. It's probably what it's going to do. As you can see, the timeline and the big sky are up on a riser now. The tonex is over here. I've got the power supply completely sitting underneath. Like I'm probably still going to use some of these risers to raise up some of these pedals so they're easier to get to. And this pitchfork, definitely going to raise this one up and probably put a button on it there so it still can tap. These two he's not too much worried about, so they're just gonna be probably just like that. But this is the layout. I feel like it utilizes space a little bit better. Things are easier to grab and touch and maneuver, so I feel like this is going to be the layout that we're gonna go with. Just a couple cool tricks you can do with these IEC power bricks now. I know a lot of you guys probably have them. One thing I usually do is I stick them under pedals, so I'll take a pedal and I'll stick on top, but I'm not going to do it on this case. On this case, you can actually, you know, I came up with an idea. Someone showed it to me on Instagram. I can't remember who, but yeah, I mean, you don't have to mount them flat, mount them sideways. So this bad boy is going to be mounted sideways against the wall of the riser. So then you can plug in the IEC that way, and it makes it nice, you know, secure contact, because you put dual lock on this side and dual lock on this side and stick it there, and this thing ain't going nowhere. The other thing is with these guys, with the Dunlops, I know a lot of you guys probably know, but some people don't. If you take off this rubber side is very it doesn't hold very well, especially when you put like dual lock or you put Velcro on it. It's just very sticky and grimy, and yeah, so and it'll when you get into heat, this thing will slide off and then nothing will stick to it. The best solution for these guys is you can take off these 4 bolts and you can flip it over and mount it on the metal side. You don't have to mount it, it'll fit right in, and you can mount on the metal side, not on the rubber side. So that's another cool trick that not everybody knows, but I mean, if you use a Dunlop like me for a very long time, you just figured that out just trying it. So yeah, try it out. Take the 4 bolts out, flip it over, put the metal side outside, and then screw it back in, and you'll be good to go. Alright, well, I wanted to get everything done before the storm kind of knocked out all the power. So instead of filming a bunch of shots, I went ahead and just started knocking everything out. But I got the board completely finished, powered, got some audio, did some programming, and here we are. I've got everything ran. This is just a simple board. He wants a couple drives. We're just running mono, so only one tonex. So it wasn't super complicated to kind of put this together. But this is where I'm going to do a short little pedal demo showcasing the entire board and then like some of the sounds. I'm going to be using his guitar. This is the Chris Roca Gretsch with the USA Filtertrons. I actually really like this guitar. I really want to get one, but they're kind of out of stock. It seems like it's hard to find them. Like Gretsch, like y'all need to work on getting some new ones. Maybe some different colors, like a black and gold in this would be pretty ideal, or even a black and silver I think would be really cool. But yeah, so let's get on to the pedal board demo. Okay, so here is the pedal board and its layout. We've got everything that he wanted on the board, everything that we could possibly fit onto this board, and it's laid out, I think, the best possible way we can do it. So we've got the Polytune for the tuner, and we jump right into the Digitech drop to do any of his drop octave things. This actually kind of does come in handy if you don't want to play an E flat or something, something like that. You just hit the little down a half step. Then from there, we go right into the tone press. This is just an always on pedal. That's why he kind of has it tucked away. And then the tone press goes into the RC booster, which is again another always on pedal. So nothing needs to be switched on or off. This is just like a preamp. It's adding a bit of grit to the actual signal chain. That jumps over to the pitchfork. The pitchfork is actually doing a little bit of modulation. You can set it to do the, octave up whammy stuff and things like that, but he's not actually running any modulation pedal on this board. So we actually have this in the detune setting, doing little chorus things. And then we go into the drive section here. So we come out of the pitchfork, into the Benson preamp, into the Lightspeed, into the Kilt, out of the Kilt, into the Dunlop, and then we come into the Timeline, the Big Sky, and out of the single tonex. Now this tonex is running Tone Factor Kenyon's AC30 JMI, and then if you switch it over, it's his White Lightning amp. So yeah, this little mono board rips. We've got a mono power supply underneath powering everything up. And yeah, let's hear some sounds of this. So I have everything off. This is just completely dry. So no delays and verbs. This is just going to be bass tone, showing you guys, the bass tone of this guitar. Let me turn these guys off here so you can get an idea of just how much it's adding. Then we got the tone press. It's just adding a little bit of lift, but obviously some compression is what we want. Then we've got the RC booster. It's actually adding quite a bit of grit and gain, probably a little bit more than I want. So that is like stage one for him. That's just it. If you want it super clean, just go to the neck. Then obviously bridge. Now we've got the drop here. The drop's just doing drop things. I think most of you guys know what the drop does. So say I wanted to drop it down a whole step. I like running the drop first before any of the preamp things like the tone, like the compressor or a tone shaper pedal, because the drop does alter the tone a little bit. So I like being able to have the preamp or the tone shaper things affect the Digitech tone, so it still gets me something a little bit more natural feeling, even though it's not 100% true to what the guitar tone feels like. So that's kind of what I do. I've ran it in the back, right after my preamp, right after my compressor, and I just didn't like the way it was reacting and how it felt. So if I run a drop, I always run it in the first of the chain, just like I'm running it here. So with the pitchfork, he's not running any octave. He doesn't do a ton of octave, but he does use it as like a modulation. So it's set up right now to be more like a modulation pedal that's doing a weird kind of chorus. Now we jump down to some of our drives. We got the Benson preamp, the Lightspeed, and the Kilt. The Lightspeed and the Benson preamp can either be used as a stage one. They stack well together in my opinion, but like either one can be used as a stage one. It really just depends on in the moment for me personally, like what I would be using. So the Benson's a little bit more mid-rangey and the Lightspeed's a little bit more transparent. So it really just depends on the moment. Do I want something a little bit more mid-rangey for that moment, or I want something that's going to be a little bit more transparent to what I'm already doing? And that's kind of how I make my decision as I'm turning on my drives. So let's listen to this Benson preamp and see kind of how it's set up right now. Let's jump over to this Lightspeed. Big, open, gnarly, mid-forward kind of sound. It's kind of like, it's how I like my overdrives to sound. So yeah, let's do maybe a little context with some delay and verb on that one. We got the Kilt here. The Kilt honestly can be used on its own because it's so massive, but I like to actually stack it with either the Benson or the Lightspeed, and it kind of just really just pushes the Kilt to another level. So here's without the Kilt, and then I'll kick it on, and then maybe I'll throw on some different drives with it. Yeah, that's kind of how the drives sound and react with each other. I'll show you how the Big Sky and the Timeline are set up with the Morningstar, because it is a little bit different. And yeah, so this is just kind of how he likes to use it. So we've got a tap tempo here on the MIDI controller. There's a dry switch here, so it just turns everything off. Turn it back on. Your delay and verbs are back. Tap tempo. Here is a dedicated swell switch. Then we have an ice, so you can switch to the ice on the timeline. Then over here is a delays page. It's a very simple setup. You got a home, you have a tap tempo. This one's empty, and then you've got your different time signatures. So we can do dotted eighth, switch to a quarter, or switch to eighth. And then you go back to home. And then one cool thing that we set up here is actually a tremolo button. Since he doesn't have any modulation, we're actually using tremolo on the timeline. So we set up it's like a tremolo page. So you swell in here, and you can engage the tremolo here. Then we've got different times for how fast and how slow it can be. Well guys, that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked me putting together this board. I know you might, I don't know, maybe I'll have to listen back to the audio, but you can kind of hear how rainy and windy it is going out in the background because I'm just in my garage. So it's I can hear all of the weather going on outside. So I wanted to get this one done before I lost power. This is the entire pedal board and the demo of the board. And if you have any questions about the sounds or anything that I did or anything that you want to do yourself, just ask me in the comments or DM me on Instagram. Anybody wants me to do this for them, I'd be happy and love to. I help out friends all the time. This is the second board that I put together on a YouTube video, but I put together plenty of boards over the years. And I just enjoy doing things like this and finding the best layouts and the best solutions for how things are going to work and flow so that you're not tap dancing and not accidentally tapping the wrong things and just doing crazy things. So that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys in the next video.